All right, sticking with me, number 5, as voted by you, the viewers of Banger TV. At number 5 is our boys from the north of my motherland, England. This is Carcass. Torn Arteries, released September 17th via Nuclear Blast. Alright, so yeah, I reviewed this record when it came out back in September and kind of got, well, maybe slightly justifiably grilled by the viewers because I talked about them being a grindcore band. Fair enough, that's how they started, but I did kind of leap over that period in their career where they basically pioneered what we now call melodic death metal with albums like Heartwork, which of course Michael Amott was a part of, and then went on to Arch Enemy and all that part of the history. So clearly Surgical Steel, which again, as I said in my review, for me was one of the biggest and best comeback albums in a long time of any band in metal, and now, you know, Torn Arteries just basically picks right up on that, even though it's, I think, 8 years later. It feels to me like it's basically Surgical Steel Part 2. So you know what? I'm in. Nothing more to say. Carcass rules. They are getting better with age, and God bless them. And so I think I gave it 4. Maybe I gave it 4. If I didn't give it 4, I'll give it 4 out of 5 this time around.
And number 4, oh Canada, our only Canadian album on the list is Archspire's Bleed the Future, released on October 29th via Season of Mist. I mean, this is the band, right? If you like tech death, this is the torchbearer, the standard, the band at which all other bands are measured. And I've already talked about it a bit because we didn't review them criminally, but you guys helped us correct that with your Patreon vote. Reminder, sign up for our Patreon.
That's nice.
Yeah, I mean, what I said about there still carries through to here. I mean, if you like tech death, this is your record for sure. But surprisingly, if you don't like tech death, it does seem like a really big priority for the band to kind of bridge tech death to people. Not by compromising tech death, but by breaking it up, giving you a little different than the of tech death. And, you know, it's a band that can write songs while also absolutely embarrassing you with their abilities. And that's always going to get a hats off. I always appreciate when bands manage to stay in their lane, but then also widen up that lane to bring a lot of people in. It's a skill, it's a talent, I appreciate it, and I absolutely still give it 4 out of 5 skulls that are moving even faster than before, if you can believe it.
All right, 3, bronze, silver, gold. We're getting into it here. The 3rd best metal album of 2021, as voted by you, the viewers of Banger TV, is Rivers of Nihil, The Work, released September 24th via Metal Blade Records. Okay, where to start? I mean, we are talking about the band that probably had the biggest surprise, most impactful album of recent years in metal. This album that just kind of fucking seemed to come out of nowhere, I think, for most of us, and was like, holy shit, who is this band? That, of course, was 2018's Where Owls Know My Name, which I thank you for sharing with me. I listened to once, twice, thrice, again and again and again, and it just got better and better and better the more I listened to it, and was on top lists everywhere in the metal community. It turned a lot of heads. So, needless to say, pretty massive expectations. Probably the most anticipated metal album of the year, possibly. Definitely one of them with The Work. So, hard act to follow. So, The Work. I know you reviewed it.
Yep.
I know you're a fan of the record.
Yep.
Interesting move. Respect for doing a bit of a Rush 2112 in the sense of like, we're not going to give you part 2.
Yeah.
So respect. That's a bold thing. I think what that demonstrates really ultimately in the DNA of the band is that this is a band with a lot of fuel in the tank.
Yeah.
And they're going to be around for a while because they can do an album like this after an album like Owls. And it's a pretty different record to my ears. How? It's big. It's open. It takes its time. There's a lot of space. There's a lot of mellow parts on this record. It's far less dense and choppy than Owls. So for me, it was a bit of like, okay, a bit of a recalibration. All right. Now, one of the biggest Faith No More guys on the planet, so I gotta call it out. But man, there are some patent Faith No More moments on this album that need to be seriously drawn attention to. I was like, wow, did that just happen? Because that just feels like a thing off of Album of the Year way back when the world forgot about one of the best bands that ever existed, and I kept going, and it was a lonely time, but I'm still here and I love that band. Anyway, that's a rabbit hole, but my point is that they're pulling actually for some really serious 90s, early 2000s. I hesitate to say nu metal because to me it's more like the proto nu metal stuff, the darker end of the spectrum.
Grungy metal, but it does, nu metal's a dirty word, but I said it, there's some nu metal parts and I don't hate it, and I am a jerk about nu metal. Just a real insufferable jerk.
But this is a broad album. This is an album that clearly there's been a lot of thought and care and attention paid to how it's been put together, and you can hear that every step of the way. The vocals are a much bigger part of the kind of the makeup of the album. This is not an album that's entirely driven by riffs or about the kind of standard tools of metal music. The vocals are a big part of the feel of this record, so I respect that. Although, I guess, call me regular, a bit disappointed because I'm gonna say I wanted more Owls. At the end of the day, I gotta call it, as much as I respect the direction of the album, I'm like, damn, I wish they just had more of that super amazing, intense riff work that they put together, and then they would just turn on a dime and there'd just be this soaring melodic bit, and then the sax solo comes in and you're like, did they just do that? And did that just actually work as well as what I thought it did? Anyway, I'm rambling. The Work, huge accomplishment. It's a bit of an opus, as I think you may have called it, and that's the right word for it. But at the end of the day, a little bit disappointed, but man, I'm already looking forward to the next record because I know this is a band that's always going to do something new, surprising, and different. So for me, it's 3.5 skulls out of 5.
Well, it's only fair. You talked about an album that I reviewed by a band I really love, and now I'm doing the same to you. It is Mastodon, Hushed and Grim, released October 29th, 2021 through Reprise Record, coming in our number 2 slot. And again, a nice theme going through here where, especially once we're getting to these top, it's, genre defiers that seem to really be, getting people excited, which is exciting in and of itself.
I can see your face.
So I'm not gonna do the bio thing. I mean, Sam did the bio thing, and we don't need the bio. Sam and I kind of represent the two different Mastodon fans. I think someone that's a Mastodon lifer and someone that's a Mastodon Leviathaner. Mastodon's Leviathan came out when I was 18. They did some really great tours around the thing, so I have a real soft spot for that album that I didn't carry through to the later years, though I will say I did actually really enjoy Once More Around the Sun. I was playing a lot of Nuclear Throne and listening to that album, and it went really well together for some people out there. So obviously this isn't going to be the record that makes me go like, oh no, never mind, screw Leviathan, I'm about where they're going now. Because I do feel, as the Leviathan fan, I'm always going to complain. You know, the album starts and Painted Anchor sort of sounds like a classic Mastodon track, but a little housebroken. You know, it's lacking quite that heaviness, and so I'm kind of like, I'm here. And then we get to the crux, and in the crux, they already get to like a Pink Floyd solo-y experimental part, and it feels like they're trying to put the moves on me after buying me just one drink, and I'm not that type of girl. I'm sorry. It's a bit weird of an album. It always feels like Mastodon really likes a bunch of genres and experiments with them, but could spend longer experimenting with them. I mean, we get The Beast, and The Beast is like a country song to start. I don't know where that came from. I'm not sure why that's there. Ultimately, at the end of the day, a little similar to you, I kind of feel like the whole album was a wait to get to Savage Lands. I got to Savage Lands, I'm like, hey, here's what I'm wanting. But it still was missing that. I know they're not going to be Leviathan heavy again, and I get that. But that like white whale, holy grit is just a beautiful gut punch, and especially for how emotive of a band they are, I never get why they're giving these different highs. They're going up here. That's cool. Go up there, play up there. But why are we cutting out the bottom when it seems like such an amazing tool that they have that they could use? I mean, when that album came out, dudes were out there pretending they actually read Moby Dick, getting big-ass whale tattoos. Give us a bit, I just want that one, like, get that voice down there. You know, it doesn't have to be the whole record. Just let me get a little bit down there. Because it's not that I don't like the new sound. It's not that I don't like the experimentation. Sickle and Peace, jazz rocky, really cool. Reminds me of this record I really like, Golden and Rhythm Jazz, a little weird jazz rock thing. And I'm actually going to go listen to that because it put me in the mood for it. It just... It's always going to be hard for me to get into it, except, hey, Bran Daler, if you're watching, I will listen to every Mastodon record that ever comes out, because that is a man that is simultaneously a superhuman drummer that sounds absolutely human all the time that he's drumming. You never feel like it's some guy that's lost touch and is just thinking about clicks and drawings, and he's making music that always sounds really organic, gives you a really good feel to it.
Great voice too, and a huge part of the sound of the band now.
Yeah. So I mean, salute to you. I literally will always listen to a record for those drums. I'm
gonna jump in here because I got to, because I'm already getting emails from people who are like, all right, Sam, is this gonna be a repeat of the Emperor of Sand snafu moment where I basically completely reversed my opinion on that record, and it was one of my favorite records of the previous decade? No, I'm holding on Hushed and Grim. To me, as I said in my review, it's the back half of the album where it just seems to drift off, with the exception of Savage Lands. Not that I don't think that there's some good songs in there, but it's all that they're just kind of they're all together. And maybe they should have played with the order of the songs a bit more to kind of diversify the feel throughout the record. Anyway, just wanted to say for the record, I'm holding at 3.5 on Hushed.
He's holding at 3.5 as Mastodon lifer, so obviously as Leviathan lifer, I've got to just a little bit low and give it 3 out of 5 skulls that are too long. The skulls are too long. It looks weird.
All right, here we are. We made it. Top of the mountain. We've done 10 through 2 as voted by you, viewers of Banger TV. But there is one left. And that one belongs to this band, Gojira. the album Fortitude, released April 30th on Roadrunner Records. All right, well, first thing to say, I guess, is that this is the first time in the history of Banger TV where my favorite album of the year is also the favorite album of all of you. So, congrats to us. Way to go, us. We did it. Finally, after 6 years, we're on the same page. Good to be together. I mean, where to start? Gojira. I mean, I'll read off the page. This is their 7th studio album. We all know they're from France, which is an anomaly in the metal world. This is also, like other bands we've talked about, the biggest gap between albums. We know what that's related to. We don't need to get into that. Yeah, so Fortitude. What to say? I mean, you know, I loved this record. You know, I suppose not unlike Mastodon, you could call me a Gojira lifer, or at least a guy who's always going to be along for the ride and is going to listen with big ears to the next record. This one was big for me because I was actually pretty disappointed with Magma. They kind of took the foot off the gas a bit too much on that album. It didn't resonate with me, perhaps because it came after L'Enfant Sauvage, which I still think is their crowning achievement to date. So this album maybe has a bit of the Magma vibe on it, but is taking little bits and pieces from the earlier catalog too, which is maybe why I really dig it. I mean, Born for One Thing, Amazonia, you know, Another World. These were some pretty big, monumental video tracks of this year. It's funny, like, I've been doing this long enough to see, you know, with bands like Lamb of God and Opeth and Mastodon, like all of these bands that kind of really started to make their mark in the early 2000s. They're all kind of the same age as me, so I feel like I've been walking side by side with them, and now all of a sudden they've each kind of reached that point where they're the biggest band in metal all of a sudden. And I guess I'm a little bit proud. You know, I feel Gojira for me is that band where, you know, they're the ambassadors. It's like, do I want to give someone like a great representation of where metal is at right now and is going to blow your ears off and is going to sound, you know, new and probably different than what you think metal sounds like? You know, I'll hand them a Gojira record. I'm aligned in what they stand for in terms of the environment and climate change and indigenous rights and these pieces. So they got their heads in the right place for me. So yeah, I mean, it's a great album. I'm glad we're all on board together. One of the best fucking live bands that have ever existed. And if there was one reinitiation I could ask for into the live musical environment in 2022, it would be to see Gojira live, because I do think, not at the risk of getting too touchy-feely, there is something about them that is kind of, dare I say, somewhat transcendent. You know, I felt that in the room with bands like Meshuggah, where you kind of just get into that zone and it's just like you're lost in the music. They do that for me. So, way to go.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really cool to see that, you know, Iron Maiden released a record, and obviously it's Banger TV, so our viewers are a little more engaged with the Ghost of Metal Future than the Ghost of Metal Past.
Yep.
But it's cool to see the top of the list, right? You got Gojira, Mastodon, Rivers of Nihil, Archspire as the 4 top bands, and it's bands that are really kind of, you know, trying to push metal in their own different ways, and it's cool that, you know, that's people are also excited about it, and it's a really good.
Yeah, that's a great
metal's
point.
future.
That's a great point. I maybe a bit of a Papa Dunn proud moment here, where I feel like we're representing something in metal which is about pushing it forward, respecting the tradition. Obviously, some of these bands, Mastodon and Gojira, they've been around for a long time, but they're not resting on their laurels. They're pushing the genre forward. So it makes me feel good about the future.
And as the underground obnoxious hipster guy, I mean, it's nice to also see the top of the mountain be like, it's one of those times where it's bands you can feel proud about as a metal fan. You're like, yeah, look at those. I might not listen to them as much as I used to, but I'm happy those are the guys, and it's not like, well, I like metal, so you like Motley Crue.
Oh, what happened there? I mean, just like, get out the Kleenex. Got a little emotional there.
The ball dropping. And
are they still watching?
Forgot.
Are they still watching? Yeah, a rating. And yeah, so when I reviewed the album back when it came out, my boy, Rory Dunn, becoming a bit of a budding metalhead, he being a bit of a tougher ass than his old man, gave it 3.5 out of 5. I gave it a 4. I'm upping it. I'm going out with a bang. 2021, extra Gojira coursing through my veins. I'm giving it 4.5 out of 5.
So obviously, that was our top 10, but of course there was a whole bunch of others, and I know you guys just like hearing bands and albums. So in no particular order, here were some of the ones that really did almost make the cut. Boss Keloid, Family, The Smiling Thrush, Bellacore, Coherence, Ginger, Wallflowers, Dark Throne, Eternal, Hales, Worm, Foreverglade, Hell Yeah, Obscura, A Valediction, Exodus, Persona Non Grata, At the Gates, Nightmare of Being, and another big shout out, 1914, Where Fear and Weapons Meet. Another one that I was like, yes. But that's it.
That's it. That's 2021 in review from us. And yeah, looking forward to 2022 with y'all. Thanks for watching. Looking forward to what the next year brings. We'll see you then.
Inside, and right approach yourself into it. You rotate the framing world. You rely on